Well, hey there, I'm Joshua Johnson. It's great to be with you on this Tuesday, June 14th. And tonight, we are talking about Saudi Arabia. President Biden is preparing for a visit there next month. But in the past, he's called the kingdom a pariah. So what changed? We'll preview the president's visit to meet Mohammed bin Salman and others, and we'll explain a major rift in pro-golf that involves Saudi Arabia. The next hearing of the January 6th committee has been postponed. We'll tell you why and lay out the panel's plans for the rest of the week. Also, a new podcast explores forced indoctrination of Indigenous children at boarding schools in Canada. We'll meet the woman who investigated abuse against her father by a priest. And it's primary election night in Maine, Nevada, North Dakota, and South Carolina. Steve Kornacki brings us an update from the big board. Saudi Arabia has been getting a lot of attention lately, both political and cultural. Let's start with politics. Today, President Biden announced his first presidential trip to Saudi Arabia. The White House says that next month he will meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and other regional leaders during a summit in Jeddah. Before that, he will visit Israel and the West Bank. Now, as a candidate, Joe Biden called out Saudi Arabia's human rights record and the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That came up during a State Department briefing today.
We can have human rights at the center of our foreign policy, as they have been, as we continue to pursue the interests of the American people across all of these interests and the many other interests that we have and that we share with our Saudi partners.
Now, those same questions are coming up now in the world of professional golf. If you're a golf fan, you already know all about this controversy. And the issue is a new tournament that is funded with lots of Saudi money. The LIV Golf Invitational. It's a breakaway series from the traditional PGA Tour, and the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund is invested in the event. Now, the winner of last week's first LIV tournament won more than $4 million, 4.75 when all is said and done. Compare that to the winner of last year's U.S. Open. He just got a little over $2 million. Now, the LIV plans to award a total of $225 million in prize money. That is the richest set of payouts in pro golf history. Last week's competitors at the LIV included Phil Mickelson. Other golfers have stayed loyal to the PGA, including Rory McIlroy. Both of those men had plenty to say about this controversy this week at the site of the U.S. Open near Boston.
Many people have strong opinions, emotions about my choice to go forward with LIV Golf, and I understand and I respect that. I am incredibly grateful for the PGA Tour and for the many opportunities that it has provided me through the years, but I am excited about this new opportunity as well.
Who am I to sit up here and give Phil a lesson on how to do things? Am I disappointed he's taken the route that he's taken? I am. But I still respect him tremendously.
The 9/11 families sent you and others a letter. How do you explain to them, not to us, but to them, what you've decided to do?
I would say to everyone that has lost loved ones, lost friends in 9/11, that I have deep, deep empathy for them.
I've been disappointed with how he's went about what he's done. He's had a wonderful career and he's his own man.
Many of the players on the PGA Tour are people that I look up to and respect the most. I respect if they disagree. But at this time, this is the right decision.
Dueling opinions from Phil Mickelson and Rory McIlroy. Now, one longtime golf fan shared his very strong thoughts on this with us. Mike tweeted, "For years, I have had two must-see golf tournaments, the Masters and the U.S. Open, down to just the Masters now. First time in many, many years I will not be watching the U.S. Open thanks to the inclusion of the blood money grubbing LIV members." Mike, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And on that note, let's begin with Shibli Telhami. He is a Anwar Sadat Professor for Peace and Development at the University of Maryland and a Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution Center for Middle East Policy. Professor Telhami, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Hello, Joshua.
As strong as Mike's comments were, I have a feeling that he kind of put his finger on the issue as it relates to the criticism over the West's relationship with Saudi Arabia. I mean, he describes it as blood money grubbing members of this competing tournament. But that's kind of part of the issue at hand, right? It's just the economic heft of Saudi Arabia and how the Western world chooses to engage with it.
Sure. I mean, look, Saudi Arabia is an important country. The world has had to deal with it. It has been an absolute monarchy from the beginning. Obviously, the Crown Prince has introduced a new level of repression, one can argue, asserting the absolute monarchy in ways that we had not witnessed in the past. But it has been an absolute monarchy, and the world has had to deal with it. It is a powerful country, influential in the Middle East and beyond. Obviously controls a lot of oil. In fact, it is a critical factor in the global energy market. So yes, but there's a big difference between having to work with Saudi Arabia, which the U.S. has to do and has been doing throughout, including when the U.S. has been critical of Saudi Arabia and the President of the United States going there. That's not one and the same thing. When you're going there, it's a different level of coordination. Is it really required for oil? And in any case, the President said, just in explaining why he's going there, he said, I'm not going there for oil, I'm going there to help Israel. So he's actually introducing the element of Israel because Israel wants, honestly, the Israelis have been the biggest lobbyists for Saudi Arabia in this town, in part because they want to make a normalization deal with Saudi Arabia. They see it as a big prize. And clearly, the president has bought into it, thinking perhaps maybe that it would help him politically. And he's wrong, because public opinion polls show that the Democratic public, at least, is critical of both Saudi Arabia and Israel. So it's really, I think it's going to backfire on the president.
I was just going to ask you about the Israel-West Bank aspect of this trip before he gets to Saudi Arabia, and you kind of did touch on that, but also with regard to Saudi Arabia more specifically, there's this sporting aspect. First of all, can you just explain this relationship between this tournament and the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund? What is that relationship? How does that work?
Well, obviously, the Saudi Sovereign Fund is controlled by the monarchy. So the Crown Prince obviously determines that it's used as an asset for the state. Some of it is, of course, legitimate investment. They invest well and they've made a lot of money. But there is no question that they use it for political influence. One of the ways they can mitigate the anger towards them on things like the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, whom I've had the pleasure of knowing, dating that back to when he was part of the Saudi establishment. They mitigate that in part by spending a lot of money to win global elites. It's not just sports. Sports now is a visible part because of how much is invested, and obviously now with the tournaments going on. But that's true in the arts. It's true in the business world where they have huge investors coming in. So yes, money is used in order to build relationships that mitigate the anger that is being projected towards them on the issue of repression.
What's your sense of how well that's working? I mean, they've had a lot of relationships with auto racing, the WWE, boxing. How well are those partnerships actually working in terms of altering Saudi Arabia's public image? I don't think they're going to make anybody forget about what happened to Mr. Khashoggi, but how do you see it?
It's a mixed bag. There's no question that a lot of people are doing business. They have a lot of money, and investors want to work with Saudi Arabia and have been working with Saudi Arabia, but many of them are not. And so it's been a mixed bag. When you say image, obviously we're talking about image in America and the West particularly. In the rest of the world, frankly, the human rights issue isn't as big an issue. And as a consequence, the fact that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is standing up to the United States or using his muscle, that's what people in the third world and certainly in the Arab world and Muslim world have wanted leaders to do. So if it weren't for his ruthlessness, he might actually be gaining a lot of support for the fact that he's using Saudi muscle to get more influence even from his superpower. But that's a different story from obviously what's happening here. I don't think they have made inroads in the United States. I think particularly the media. I mean, Jamal Khashoggi was a columnist for the Washington Post, an American newspaper. There's been very high-profile case, and I think it remains to be a sore point in the relationship.
And before I have to let you go, I can't help but think that this is all coming at a time when Americans are, for the very first time, seeing average prices at the pump across the nation, the national average, reaching $5 a gallon for the very first time. How much does this affect the just day-to-day economics of what America and, frankly, parts of Western Europe, significant parts of Western Europe, are dealing with in terms of just the cost of living, the cost of getting around, these oil costs that Saudi Arabia has a lot to do with? Before we go.
Joshua, as you know, I do public opinion polls in the U.S. on multiple issues, including now the public willingness to pay a price for supporting Ukraine, including increase in oil prices and rising inflation. And there's no question that from March to May in our polls, we saw declining support, in part because Americans are beginning to feel the heat. But here's the thing. It is improbable that oil prices would drop significantly because of the president's visit to Saudi Arabia. Of course, it could drop a little bit. The Saudis have a lot of weight, but ultimately there are many reasons why the prices are high. And so that's why I think in the end, the president will have paid a price with his Democratic constituency, which doesn't really like him going there. He will not have reaped the benefit of the oil price. He will not have reaped the benefit on Israel either, because I think the Democratic constituency is not so much supportive of Israel like when he was senator. It's a very different, changed environment. And the fact that he's, in a way, marginalizing the occupation by Israel, and also, frankly, losing some of the momentum that he gained on Ukraine by highlighting Russia's occupation of Ukraine, democracy and human rights in Ukraine, and now he's obviously going to Israel and Saudi Arabia without dealing either with the occupation, with democracy or human rights. It's a real problem for him, I think, among Democrats.
Shibli Talami, the Anwar Sadat Professor for Peace and Development at the University of Maryland, and also a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution Center for Middle East Policy. Professor, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Still to come, Yellowstone is closed. Severe flooding is forcing this beloved national park out of service. Look at those floodwaters. My goodness, we'll check the forecast for more extreme weather and intense heat that cause damage like this. We're glad you're with us for Now Tonight from NBC News. Summer is a great time to visit a national park, but this summer's weather has forced Yellowstone National Park to close. The park superintendent announced that all entrances are temporarily closed, and some of the roads are also compromised, and it's easy to see why. The reason has been unprecedented rainfall. Look at that. Caused major floods, rock slides, mudslides, obviously some pretty significant structural damage too. Yellowstone National Park spans 3 states, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. It will remain closed until tomorrow at least. Extreme weather is hitting much of the U.S. right now, and if it's not major rainfall, it's extreme heat. For example, public schools in Pittsburgh are dismissing classes early tomorrow and Thursday because of the heat wave. NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns has more on this week's forecast. Hey, Bill.
Joshua, this has been an incredible 24 hours with all the dramatic scenes from Yellowstone and, of course, Chicago with the tornado warnings last night and the damaging winds through areas of Illinois and Indiana, and then this heat wave that's just relentless and won't end. I mean, we saw numerous record highs today, and the heat wave, it's just moving from one section of the country to the next. Remember, over the weekend it was in Texas, and now it has shifted into the Ohio Valley. It's going to be very hot in areas of the southeast, and then it's going to shift back towards Texas again. So we're just stuck in a very brutal weather weather pattern for this early in our, it's still the late spring, but we kind of consider this our summer season. So 95 million people are under what we call heat advisories, heat watches, or heat warnings. The heat warnings is where it's the most dangerous, and that continues from Chicago to St. Louis, Indianapolis to Cincinnati, a little portion of Georgia also, and then our friends in the desert Southwest are still very hot. So how hot does it feel? Even right now, even as the sun is getting lower in the sky in some areas and even setting in some other areas, it still feels oppressive in the 90s in many spots. A couple spots still feel like they're in the 100s. And as I mentioned, we're not done yet. Record highs are anticipated tomorrow. Today, by the way, we broke the record high in St. Louis. That's your second day in a row. In Chicago, Midway Airport, not O'Hare, Midway Airport hit 100 degrees for the first time in over 10 years. So yes, this is pretty rarefied heat. We haven't felt like this in a while in certain locations. So tomorrow, St. Louis, your record is 100. You're going to be 98, so you're going to break your record streak there. Numerous areas here are going to be in the mid-90s to near 100. Everyone's going to be approaching record highs. I don't think we're going to break quite as many records tomorrow. And then even as we go into Thursday, more records are possible. Raleigh, Augusta, Georgia could hit 100 degrees. This is the actual temperature. This isn't even the heat index, which is where you factor in the humidity too. And then we sneak the heat back into Texas again. Del Rio, 103. Dallas, back up to 101. And we even get a little taste of it here in areas like Denver and Billings and Salt Lake City, hitting the century mark once again. And unfortunately, if you're wondering when's our relief coming, it looks like this heat dome is what we'll call it. The hot air dome that's just shifting around the country is going to center on the south and the southeast as we go throughout the end of this month. This is from June 19th to June 25th. So even next week looks brutally hot. Notice the only cooler spots, the northeast and the northwest. And that's where the heat wave hasn't been. Those are the only areas that are sitting there saying, this heat wave isn't too bad. And don't be surprised if we start talking about a flash drought, too. It's going to be very dry in the same areas that are getting the heat wave. That dries out the soil very quickly, so the grass will be dying, and you have to worry about the crops, too. And as far as other news, of course, severe weather this time of year. It's like every day we're going to get it. Hopefully, this time of year, we don't get as many tornadoes. That's more into May. But usually, we get a lot of lightning storms, hail storms, and wind damage storms, and we anticipate that tomorrow. So we're worried about lightning, maybe some small hail in the southeast, but watch out our friends in Wisconsin, including Green Bay to Madison, over towards Milwaukee. It looks like Chicago is going to miss out on this severe weather, but we could see power outages and wind damage in areas of Wisconsin. And as far as Thursday go, then we'll track some of those strong storms to areas like Pittsburgh, State College, Pennsylvania, Ithaca, and Buffalo, Western New York, and portions of Ohio. So, yeah, heat wave, severe weather. What are we missing? Oh, yeah, the tropics. It looks like we do have a new tropical wave we're going to be watching. The Hurricane Center says this one has a 40% chance of developing. And if it does develop, it will drift northwards and it'll be approaching areas towards Belize and Mexico. So you're thinking Cancun possibly, and then the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll watch that in the days ahead. A very active weather pattern coast to coast, Joshua.
Sounds like it. Yeah, thank you, Bill. That's NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns with the forecast. Now, if this extreme weather is affecting you, I'd really love to know about it. Tell me what's going on where you are and how you're dealing with it. We are at NBC Now Tonight on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. You can leave me a brief but brilliant voicemail, 888-575-2NBC. That's 888-575-2622. How is the extreme weather affecting you, and how are you dealing with it? You can also just email me now tonight at NBCnews.com. We'll get to some of today's other top stories in a moment, including the January 6th committee postponing tomorrow's hearing, an update from Kyiv on the war in Ukraine, and the Smithsonian honoring a commitment to return stolen art. Let's begin tonight's headlines with the January 6th hearings. The Select Committee has postponed tomorrow's hearing. Another one will take place as scheduled this Thursday, as far as we know. The hearings after that are set for next Tuesday and Wednesday, June 21st and 22nd. Remember, you can watch all the hearings here on NBC News Now. Now, it's unclear exactly which topics will be covered each day. As for the delay, committee member Zoe Lofgren, who's a Democrat from Northern California, said the postponement is because of technical issues. Apparently, the staff has just been overwhelmed with the amount of video testimonies that need to be edited for each of the hearings, and it seems the committee's trying to give them more time to just get it all done. Now, we had planned to hear tomorrow about former President Trump's attempts to replace the former acting Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen. Mr. Rosen himself was expected to testify. In eastern Ukraine, the city of Severodonetsk is bearing the brunt of Russia's attacks. It's cut off now from the rest of the country after its last bridge was destroyed. Officials say that Russia controls about 80% of the city. Severodonetsk was once home to more than 100,000 people. Now, only 12,000 remain. The emotional and mental impact of this war has been understandably hard on Ukrainians, especially some of its veterans. That's where NBC's Ali Arouzi picks up the story from Kyiv. Hey, Ali.
Hey, Joshua. You know, as we've been discussing all week, the battle for Severodonetsk, the Luhansk area, carries on raging every day, and inch by inch, the Russian forces are going more and more forward, pushing the Ukrainian forces further and further back. We discussed those bridges yesterday that the Russians blew up. Now they've destroyed 3 bridges connecting Severodonetsk to Lysychansk. Now, the military governor of Luhansk is saying that one of those bridges can still carry pedestrians across it, but no vehicles. So if people are willing to make this perilous journey across the bridge, they can try and get out, but nobody's really willing to take that risk. And of course, the Ukrainians have been pushed into this small pocket of control, which is that massive chemical plant, the Azovstal chemical plant. And the Russians have now given the Ukrainian troops that are still fighting around that plant and the civilians that are hiding in the bunker an ultimatum. They say surrender by 8 o'clock Moscow time tomorrow morning and you'll be given safe passage out of there. Mind you, that safe passage will be to Russian territory, but the Ukrainians are showing no signs of wanting to give that up. And of course, if that sounds familiar, it's the same playbook that they used in Mariupol at that steel plant, those siege and starvation tactics to try and get people out there. And they've made little distinction between military targets and civilian posts. So that whole area is looking terrible. President Zelensky said today, that the battle for Donbass is going to go down in history as one of the most brutal in Europe. And of course, this is all having a terrible effect on people in this war. We had a chance today to go to a hospital that's dealing with veterans that are having psychological trauma from this war, and we spoke to one man called Alexander at that hospital. He was a regular guy before this war. He had a job at a vitamin factory and medicine factory. He was a manager there. All of a sudden the war broke out and he finds himself on the front lines with almost no military training. He got split up from his unit in the first weeks of the attacks on Kyiv, and he was lost in the forest here. He was foraging for food, crawling around in the middle of the night so he wouldn't be spotted by the Russians. He said that he came across a Russian tank. He was just petrified. They fired a shell at him, and luckily it hit a pine tree and not him. And he's saying that he's not a violent man, but he's been, forced to defend his country. Let's take a listen to what he had to tell us.
One moment I saw the drone. It looking for me, enemy looking for me, and our friends looking for me, but nobody find me.
And Joshua, he's been separated from his family. They're now in Prague, in the safety of Prague. He's getting treatment at this hospital, and he kept reiterating how scared he was during those battles, how he hates fighting. But once he finishes his medical analysis there and all the therapy he's getting, he may have to go back to the front line, and it's hard to fathom how regular people, just like you and I, would have to suddenly, face a massive war machine and keep going back into therapy and then back into war. And the reason for that is this war is showing no signs of ending. The Russians are pushing forward. They're still getting massive amounts of energy from selling energy to Europe. $97 billion worth of energy they've sold so far in this war to Europe. And the Ukrainians are struggling to make ends meet. They can't even get their wheat out of their country. So day by day, morale is going down in this country, but they're still fighting as hard as they can.
Well, thank you, Ali. That's NBC's Ali Arouzi with the latest from Kyiv. Now, an update to a story we brought you recently about stolen art. The Smithsonian has just voted to return 29 pieces from its collections to Nigeria. They're known as Benin bronzes, artworks from the mid-16th to early 17th centuries. The former kingdom of Benin was part of what is now Nigeria. Currently, the bronzes are at the National Museum of African Art in Washington. The Smithsonian got them in 1897 after a British raid of the Benin Kingdom. This process is called deaccession. A new policy requires the Smithsonian to de-access objects based on monetary value, research or historical value, and public interest. No word so far on when Nigeria will receive the Benin bronzes. When we come back, confronting a legacy of abuse. A new podcast looks into Canada's boarding schools for tribal children. You'll meet the host and hear how she faced this history in her own family just ahead. Stay close. If you could get the truth about an injustice against your family, would you do it? That is at the heart of a new podcast focused on North America's indigenous tribes. For more than 150 years, an old system of boarding schools separated Native American children from their families in the U.S. The Interior Department says there used to be more than 400 of these schools here. Some of them were responsible for the deaths of more than 500 children. Canada also had Indigenous schools. Last year, the remains of more than 200 children were found where one Indigenous school once stood. Some of the children were as young as 3. And this is where the family injustice comes in. It's a story of cultural erasure, sexual abuse, and the search for closure. But for one woman, her search for answers raised a new question. Are you sure you want to know? Joining us now is investigative journalist Connie Walker. She's the host of Stolen: Surviving St. Michael's. Ms. Walker, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we dive in, fair warning, everyone, this conversation involves descriptions of physical and sexual abuse against children, so please take care if those subjects are triggering for you. With that said, tell us about these Indigenous schools in Canada. Why were they set up and what did they do?
Well, the goal was actually really simple. It was meant to be a tool for forced assimilation of Indigenous children. They were set up at a time in Canadian history where the Canadian government was trying to quell Indigenous resistance and take control over Indigenous lands. And they thought a tool in helping them achieve those goals would be to separate Indigenous children from their families so that they could be assimilated. And the result of that, is really a 100-year legacy that we're only now beginning to understand. But what we have learned is that children were prohibited from speaking their language. They went to these schools as young as 4, 5, 6 years old. They were punished for practicing their culture. And there was also widespread abuse in these schools. Most of these schools were run by the church, most of them the Catholic Church. And there were over 100 schools across the country that have left these devastating legacies on Indigenous families and communities like mine.
Generations of your family went to one school in particular, St. Michael's Residential School, and the podcast centers around your search for answers with regard to your father, who was allegedly abused by a priest there. We want to play a quick clip from the podcast, one of the key kind of pivotal moments in the storyline of this podcast. And again, some of this material is rather disturbing, but highly, highly compelling in terms of what this meant to your family. Listen.
There are 2 photos of teenage boys changing in a locker room.
Oh my God, one guy looks like he's completely naked in this picture. But why would he take pictures of them undressing?
There's not a single mention of abuse at St. Michael's in these archives, but there is this picture of a naked boy in a priest's file.
Tell us more about that moment you found that picture of the boy and the priest. Where did that lead you?
This journey started with a story that I heard about my father, about how as an adult, he was a police officer in rural Saskatchewan. And one night while on patrol, he pulled over a car he suspected of drinking and driving. And when he got to the driver's side window, he recognized the man behind the wheel as the priest who had abused him at St. Michael's at that residential school. And when I heard this story last year, it really stopped me in my tracks and made me want to learn more about my father's experience at this residential school. And so I also then wanted to learn about the order of priests that ran that school for over 80 years. And so I started, investigating these priests and learning about which priests were there. And it wasn't long until I started hearing stories of which priests were known to be the abusive priests. And so that clip is actually from a trip that I took to the public archives in Alberta, where the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, which is the Catholic order of priests that ran this school, where they have given over some of their documentation from the residential school. And it was in a priest's file that I saw this sheet of negatives. And as I held it up to the light, I could see that it was a picture of boys changing in a locker room and that one of the boys was naked. And it was a shocking discovery because, so much of what the Catholic Church and so much of what the Oblates of Mary Immaculate what they've done, since they started running these schools is really also trying to, I think, keep some documents to themselves. There are some documents that they say that they will not release until after 50 years after a priest has died. And so for us to find this in a folder felt really compelling. And it really helped me realize that, this is a story that was about my father, who was at this school when he was 6 years old and who was abused by a priest. But it's also a bigger story about trying to uncover what the truth was in this school, just how many abusive priests walked those halls, how many children experienced abuse at this school. And for me, as an investigative journalist, it's important to also try to ask these important questions around accountability. And we're not aware of a single priest from that school, a single oblate priest from that school who was ever charged for the abuse, but we know that it was widespread.
We heard from one of our viewers who listened to your podcast. Shannon emailed, listening to Connie's interviewees talk about leaving their families and homes at such a young age to go to the residential school hit me hard. I remember how hard it was to walk away from my dad the first day of kindergarten. I can't imagine how devastated I would have been if I didn't get to see him again at the end of the day. I can only imagine how lonely and isolating it felt to be away from loved ones, unable to speak your language, and scolded for being homesick. As an American, I knew a little about our history with residential schools, but I didn't even know residential schools existed in the 20th century, let alone until 1996. Shannon, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I wonder, in the time we have left before I got to let you go, I listened to the podcast, I've heard all the episodes so far. Wow, it's just devastating and damning and awful, but also illuminating to an aspect of Indigenous culture that I kind of knew, but didn't really know. The Secretary of Interior now in the U.S., Deb Haaland, is of tribal descent, and she's been working hard to kind of unearth the story of these schools in the U.S. Where do you hope this goes from here? It was clear from the podcast that some folks you spoke to were like, don't go digging under this dirt. All you'll get is dirty. Like, don't go through all of this pain, but you've chosen to go through it and unearth it. Where do you hope this goes from here?
I really want to correct the record, around not just residential schools and the truth around residential schools, but really help people understand the Indigenous people. We've been here, longer than anyone. And so much of our story, so much of our history has been left uncovered, has been hidden, has not been brought to light. And I feel like, that's one of my goals as a journalist, is to help bring these stories forward, to help amplify Indigenous voices where, they're so important. They're more crucial than they have ever been. But we can't even begin to understand, the situations we're in now until we confront the truth about our past. And that's really the goal for this podcast. It's about my father and wanting to find out who his abuser is and what happened to this priest, what happened to this man. But it really is also, I think, a story that so many Indigenous families are resonating with, because we all have this shared history that has been ignored for far too long.
Before I let you go, what about you? Have you found any closure or peace from investigating all of this?
Honestly, it's, this has really felt in a lot of ways like a healing journey for me. I think that my father's experience in that residential school really shaped and impacted our relationship, and not in a good way. You know, we were not very close for most of my life. In doing this podcast, I feel like I've been interviewing my aunts and uncles who were at the school with my dad, talking to my other siblings who had a better relationship with him. And I really have felt like I've gotten to know my dad in a new way. And my only regret is that I didn't do this sooner, before he passed away in 2013, because I've learned what a remarkable man he was, and just so incredibly proud to call myself his daughter. And I hope that he would be proud of the work that we're doing as well.
The podcast is called Stolen: Surviving St. Michael's. It's on Spotify. Connie Walker, if I may be so bold, I think you honor your father's memory by telling his story, the good and the bad, and trying to get the truth about what happened to him. I'm so honored to have heard the story and to have had a chance to talk to you about it tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua. I really appreciate that.
The primary elections continued in 4 states today. We will have updates from the campaign trails and Steve Kornacki at the big board before we go. If it's Tuesday, it's election night again. The primaries continue, this time in 4 more states: Maine, Nevada, North Dakota, and South Carolina. Among other races, we're watching a number of candidates who were endorsed by former President Trump. In South Carolina, we're watching 2 key races. First, Congressman Tom Rice. He represents the 7th district along the state's eastern border. Congressman Rice voted to impeach the president after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. State Representative Russell Fry is challenging him in the Republican primary. Congresswoman Nancy Mace did not vote to impeach, but she openly criticized the president after the insurrection. Former State Rep Katie Arrington is opposing her. Congresswoman Mace represents the 1st District, which includes Charleston and Hilton Head Island. And in Nevada, the former president is supporting the state's former Attorney General, Adam Laxalt. He's running against Sam Brown for the GOP nomination. Now, NBC News has already made some projections in some of these races. Let's get into that and what's happening on the ground, starting in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. That is where we find NBC political reporter Vaughn Hilliard joining us this evening on a warm summer night on the Carolina coast. Vaughn, tell us what's going on there right now with the races that we're watching.
Joshua, the 2 big races that we're looking at are incumbent Republican Congress members Tom Rice and Nancy Mace. Why do we care about them? Well, they are part of a small contingency of Republicans, elected Republicans, who either voted to impeach Donald Trump or who voted to convict him following the January 6th insurrection, who decided to try to run for re-election in 2022. Donald Trump has backed primary challengers against both of them. This is essentially part of his purge campaign, an effort to oust those Republicans who he has deemed deficiently loyal to him. And what you are seeing here as these results start to come in is the potential of Nancy Mace and Tom Rice not winning these Republican primaries here. I want to let you hear, though, from both of the candidates. I had conversations with them because they've kind of taken divergent paths. While Tom Rice has consistently denunciated Donald Trump, Nancy Mace, she's tried to soften her approach when she talks about him. Take a listen. You have held the line on Donald Trump since we last talked. Not advantageous to you, likely politically. Why?
Oh, I think it's advantageous to me politically. I think I'm just telling the truth. You know, the truth will set you free. And
that means something.
I think that Donald Trump is not the future of the Republican Party. I think, you know, he was a consequential president, and we accomplished things that lifted all people up while he was president. But I think he is the past, and we need to move on.
Do you think Donald Trump should be a leader in this Republican Party going forward?
Well, he is welcome to lead whomever he wants within our party. We have a big party, a Big Ten party. I want to see folks from all walks of life in the Republican Party, because the only way we can get the majority in November is if we all come together and win it.
Now, after January 6th, Tom Rice voted to impeach Donald Trump. Nancy Mace called for him to be censured. The big question here in 2022, are Republicans who oppose Donald Trump still able to win in these contested primaries?
Vaughn, before we keep moving, what's the mood where you are in terms of both these candidates and the impact of the former president on these races?
Well, I should say that we are here at a golf course along the water here just outside of Charleston. This is Nancy Mace's primary watch party here. They're hoping for the night to go well for them here. But we were talking with Republican voters in this district here today, and we talked to a couple individuals who said that they believe that Nancy Mace was, in one woman's words, that she betrayed Donald Trump and betrayed her constituency when she called out and opposed Donald Trump last year. But then there was another gentleman who said that Donald Trump has no influence on who he votes for, and ultimately Nancy Mace has represented this district. She is a conservative and ultimately got his vote here. Just how many are on each side of that equation, that's what we're going to find out tonight.
Thank you, Vaughn. That is NBC political reporter Vaughn Hilliard starting us off from South Carolina. Let's continue now with NBC national political reporter Steve Kornacki, who has raced in at the big boy. You are like the most popular man in the building tonight, I think, running from one touchscreen to another. But you've got some races that I think we can characterize.
Well, we got some numbers, absolutely. These two races you're talking about. Here we go. 7th Congressional District in South Carolina. There's the incumbent, Tom Rice. Look at this. He is down more than 20 points, more than a third of the vote counted. That is Russell Fry. He's a state legislator endorsed by Donald Trump. These are grim numbers for Rice. They're grim numbers for a couple of reasons. Number one, you look across the district right here. This is the 7th we've highlighted. All of the counties that we've gotten vote in so far, Fry is leading in. So that includes, you just take a look here. He's close to, and by the way, the 50% rule is in effect here. You got to get 50% to win outright tonight. In some of these counties, Fry is at 50%. You can see in Florence County, he's already crossed the threshold there. He's close to 50% in some other counties like Dillon County. The mother lode is going to be right here, Horry County. This is half the district. Half the votes are going to come out of Horry County. This is where Myrtle Beach is. This is where Conway is. We don't have a lot of votes here so far, but I think that's going to basically, this is basically what's going to be what decides how tonight goes. You see, Fry is sitting at 47%. If he can boost that with the rest of the vote in Horry County, if he can get that up over 50, get that well over 50, he could have a chance to move over 50 district-wide and win this thing tonight. If you're Rice, your only hope right now is to keep Fry under 50 and to force a runoff. If Fry finishes under 50, then the top two go to a runoff 2 weeks from now. But the other problem for Rice, it's not just how much he's trailing Fry by. You take a look at the rest of these candidates in the field. This is Barbara Arthur, for instance. She says one of the big reasons she got in the race, she was offended by Rice's vote for impeachment. All of these other candidates have also made Rice's vote for impeachment an issue in this campaign. So if this becomes a Fry-Rice one-on-one runoff, Rice looks like he's going to go into it down some margin here, and the potential for consolidation of the rest of the field behind Fry would seem high. In the other district there, the 1st district, about a fifth of the vote now reported. Nancy Mace is leading by 10 points over her Trump-backed challenger, Katie Arrington. Again, we're seeing some geographic divergence here. Mace doing extremely well in Charleston County. You take a look next door in Berkeley County. Arrington is leading there. What looms large right now? Beaufort County, about a third of the vote is going to come out of here. We don't have anything from there yet. So you look at how these are breaking right now. Really interested to know once we start getting some votes from Beaufort. I think it'll give us a good sense of where this race is going overall. But Mace has that slight advantage right now with what's been counted. And in the 7th district, the other incumbent, Rice, in big trouble at this hour.
As of this point, the polls in Nevada, it's way too soon to know about Nevada. We're going to go there for a report in just a minute, but tell us some of what we're looking for there.
Yeah, key is Nevada's going to be a state that could potentially decide control of the U.S. Senate this November. You've got a Democratic incumbent running for re-election, Catherine Cortez Masto. She's expected to easily win re-nomination tonight. The question is, who is going to oppose her? Adam Laxalt, the former state attorney general, he has Donald Trump's backing. He's been considered the favorite most of this campaign, but there's been a late movement behind his opponent here. So there's a question of whether this race is going to actually end up close tonight, whether we might get a bit of a surprise. But Adam Laxalt has been considered the favorite, has the backing of Donald Trump. And no matter who emerges from this primary tonight, that Catherine Cortez Masto race, again, it's a 50-50 Senate. Any one race could end up being the one that decides it. Nevada, though, would be near the top of that list of potential deciding states.
I would be remiss if I did not ask, on behalf of people who don't watch politics as closely as we do, why we keep caring about Donald Trump's impact on all of these races. I think some folks get it because he's still a political player. He could run for president again. I constantly hear from people who are like, boy, you guys in New York couldn't do your job. You couldn't live if Donald Trump wasn't still a player in politics. Why is he still the top of mind? How far at the top of mind do we think he should actually be right now?
I mean, I just got to show you those results again from South Carolina. You are looking at, let's go into the 7th district here in South Carolina, And you're talking about Tom Rice. Here we go again. Tom Rice, this man right here, was elected to Congress 10 years ago. He has been easily reelected to the seat for 10 years. He cast a vote for the impeachment of Donald Trump last year, and now at this hour finds himself 21 points behind a Donald Trump-backed challenger and in grave, grave danger of losing his seat. So we can debate how exactly the impact of the Trump endorsement. It's varied from primary to primary, but it's hard to see Rice in the situation he's in right now if he wasn't one of those few Republicans who crossed Donald Trump on the impeachment vote last year.
Thank you, Steve. NBC national political reporter Steve Kornacki. And remember, we'll have the latest on these races on our website, NBCnews.com. You can go to the NBC News app. At the moment, these races are still too early to call. Since we were talking Nevada, let's head out to Reno and finish up with NBC's Guad Venegas, who joins us there. And Guad, talk about some of what we're seeing tonight, particularly in these races that we were just referring to, in terms of some of the big races we're watching this evening.
Joshua, well, you know, you talk about Trump's endorsement, both front runners for the governor's race and, of course, that U.S. Senate race that has the national attention. Both of the people that Trump endorsed, Adam Laxalt in the Senate race and Joe Lombardo in the governor's race, were the front runners coming into this election day. So we have about a little over an hour until the polling places close here in Nevada. A lot of voters coming in today telling us that they want change. Of course, the Republican voters came here because they're upset, because they want something different. They're blaming the current leadership with the Democrats for all of the issues that they have been facing. And it's interesting, as we've talked to Republicans, both of those that support Adam Laxalt, who's been endorsed by Trump in the Senate election, and those that support Sam Brown, who was not endorsed by Donald Trump, telling us that they believe that there was some type of election fraud that did take place. That has been surprising with all these conversations we've had with the voters that have been here today. Now, as I said, Sam Brown was not endorsed by Donald Trump, so it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. Adam Laxalt is the front runner. He was 14 points up in the latest poll, but Sam Brown's campaign said that was within the margin of error. He also made a lot of ground in the last few days, so it would be a surprise to see him win that nomination, but it would also mean a lot to see someone who wasn't endorsed by Trump win that nomination for the Republican Party with the national implication that it has. But as of now, the latest polls did indicate that Adam Laxalt was the front runner here.
On the Republican side, I wonder on the Democratic side, and again, take a look at this poll from the Nevada Independent before the election. You can see how Mr. Laxalt had an edge going into primary day ahead of Mr. Brown. I wonder how some of the other demographics, Guad, might be playing out, particularly since Nevada is a heavy labor state, has a large Latino voting population. How's that factoring in?
So, you know, right now, a lot of the attention is focused, of course, on the Republican voters, right? We're waiting to see who Republicans choose to go on to this race versus Catherine Cortez Masto. Are they going to go with Adam Laxalt, who's with the MAGA politics, who's been not only endorsed by Trump, also by his personal friend Ron DeSantis, or will they go with the more moderate candidate, which is Sam Brown? The conversations I've had with Sam Brown, his message isn't to blame Democrats and attack them the way Laxalt does. He disagrees with the decisions they've made, but he thinks Nevada needs a senator that will go represent the people of Nevada versus going to Washington, what he says that Catherine Cortez Masto has done, going to Washington and making decisions that are more in line with what Democrats on a national level want. So that's what Sam Brown is talking about. That's what he would like. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with these races. Now, when you talk about these groups, you've got two big groups in Nevada, and these groups could be part of the same group. I'm talking about the nonpartisan voters, right? Places like Washoe County, 1/3 of the voters, more than 100,000, are nonpartisans. Whomever wins this Republican nomination needs to win those nonpartisan voters that say they don't care if they vote for a Republican or a Democrat. They want to vote for a candidate that lines up with their values, a candidate they feel happy with, and they still don't know. A lot of these nonpartisan voters that I've talked to, they still don't know if they want to support the Republican or the incumbent Democrat, Catherine Cortez Masto. So that will be something to look for in the midterm election. And then you have the Latino vote. 20% of eligible voters in Nevada are Latino. NALEO is saying they expect about 165,000 Latinos to vote in these midterm elections. And Latinos are very unpredictable. It's a changing demographic. You have a lot of young voters. You don't know how many end up coming out to vote, and they could be the new swing voters of the future. Of course, these are the things we will find out once we get to the midterm election, Joshua.
Thank you, Guad. That's NBC's Guad Venegas finishing us off tonight from Reno, Nevada. And hey, thank you for making time for us as well. Quick reminder, we would like your questions and stories, your stories about this Pride Month. With everything that's going on with the LGBTQ community, we'd love to know what's important to you this Pride Month and how that's affecting the actions that you do or don't take during Pride. Send us an email, a voicemail, hit us up on social. We would love to hear from you. Until we meet again, I'm Joshua Johnson. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.